Let's talk about the secret to protecting your energy, especially if you are someone who is an empath and you naturally feel other people's energy, whether it's positive or negative, and you feel like it's just so draining for you. I'm going to teach you exactly how to protect your energy and teach you something that is not really being taught and isn't even really common knowledge for a majority of people, especially empaths. So let's get into it. First of all, I want to explain what is actually happening, especially as an empath. We all have the ability to feel and attune into other people's energy, but empaths in particular, and people who are sensitive in nature, they're naturally absorbing and feeling other people's energies. And this can maybe even result in heightened anxiety, heightened feelings of negativity. You may feel extra drained depending on certain people that you are around, or maybe when you're in big crowds or around a big group of people in social settings, you find that your battery starts to decline very, very rapidly, and you need a lot of time to recharge and for your energy to actually get back to normal before the actual event. So, what I want to explain first is what's actually happening to us as empaths and people who are more sensitive in nature, what's actually going on. Because the truth is, we're not actually absorbing people's energy, even though that's the common theme and that's what how we have grown to understand this concept is, oh, I just take on other people's energy. To an extent, this is true, but I want to actually explain energetically what is happening that we can't physically see is happening, but we're feeling. So it's not actually possible to absorb someone else's energy, although that's how we typically communicate and refer to this experience as. But all that ever actually happens is we're only able to ever experience our own energy. So, what is actually happening in these scenarios is you're not absorbing their energy. Your energy is actually attuning to theirs, and that is what you are experiencing. So, you're still experiencing your own energy, but you, because you don't have the tools to understand what's actually going on and how to control this, you are accidentally attuning to everyone's energy around you, and then your energy is adjusting to whatever frequency they are vibrating at. So if you go into a room full of crowded people, your field is tapping into so many people's energy around you, and your energy is doing this like fluctuation, and you're experiencing it all at once, which is why you feel so drained after the fact, because your field, your energy field, was attuning to so many people all at once. And you also may experience this. Maybe you have family members or certain friends or coworkers in your life, or even just having the news channel on your TV. You feel some kind of negative energy once you've been with that person or once you watched the show or the TV, and you like feel so negative after, or you just feel unsettled. This is because your energetic field, so your aura, the field surrounding your physical body that we can't physically see, it attuned to that frequency, and then you experienced it within your own energetic field. So we can start to understand that this can actually be controlled when you learn how to understand your energetic field, understand your natural abilities and gifts. And here's what I'll say is, if you are an empath or you're someone who is very sensitive in nature, I want you to know that this is actually a gift. And I know that it can be perceived as this negative thing because we attune to other people's energy, or what other people say is they absorb other people's energy, and it is sometimes debilitating or draining, or really can impact our how we feel and overall our mental health if we don't know how to actually control this. So what you want to understand is, first of all, this is a gift. The fact that you can do this so easily is a natural gift that you were born with. And to some capacity, we all have this ability. But again, for empaths and people who are sensitive, they just naturally do this. So, the way that you can start to think about this is imagining you are reading a book or you're watching a show, and think of it as the genre of fantasy fiction. I love this type of genre, and thinking about the main character. This is a very common theme in these books and TV shows and movies, where the main character discovers that they actually are gifted or have some kind of power within them. And maybe it's stronger than what they are equipped to handle. And oftentimes they have to go through this process where they actually learn how to hone in their abilities, how to control their powers and their gifts. And over time, they're actually able to use the gifts, the abilities to their advantage to help and support other people. And they have a better sense of control over this. I want you to start to think about it and approach it with this mentality versus any kind of negative perception you may have had up until this point, because I can understand why it may feel like a negative thing to have, but it's just because we aren't taught how to actually understand what's going on with these gifts. It's not like there's any kind of school or training that is mainstream that we can go to and say, hey, I'm an empath. How can I learn how to better control my gift and utilize it in a more positive way so that it's not taking over my life? So you can see how there's a comparison here when we think about fictional characters, especially in fantasy genres, where they discover they have a power, gift, some kind of like superhero thing within them, component within them, and they actually have to train for it in order to utilize it and be able to help humanity with it versus it taking over them. Now, let's get into how to actually protect your energy and where you can get started today just to start noticing differences in your ability to manage this empath experience of attuning to other people's frequencies. The biggest, most effective way to protect your energy is by regulating your nervous system. The reason why regulating your nervous system, not just getting yourself out of survival and being somewhat out of a dysregulated state, but fully grounded, fully in control of your nervous system. The reason for this is because your nervous system directly impacts your energetic field. So, if you have a very dysregulated nervous system, your energetic field is going to be somewhat of this like chaotic frequency that you really don't have much control over. And when you don't have control over this, this is the experience that you have again when you're with other people, when you're in social settings, where because you don't have very much control over your energetic field, it is it is just attuning to other people's frequency and other people's energy without your consent. That's what's basically happening. But when you learn how to regulate your nervous system. Get it out of survival, out of a dysregulated state, and then you strengthen your ability to remain grounded in heightened situations. So there's there's foundational work that goes into this, and there's different levels of it. If you really want to remain calm, remain grounded, even amongst chaos around you, you first have to master the level of getting out of survival. If you're naturally living in survival, living in dysregulation, I can promise you that you are not going to feel regulated when there's other chaos going around you. You must be feeling regulated before chaos happens. So, one of the things that I teach clients to do is we actually work with real life scenarios, real life situations to put this into practice right away. So, oftentimes when clients come into my work, they come in wanting to heal their nervous system, wanting to feel more regulated. And one of the ways that we do this is we start to utilize certain situations in our day to day. So, not just big situations, but little situations. We start developing this level of awareness within ourself and within our body, noticing when the nervous system is actually trying to kick on. And this can be very subtle, and this can also be very extreme. Just depends on the individual, but ultimately, what we're doing is we're actually learning how to recognize these subtle differences, these subtle shifts that happen within our nervous system on a regular day to day basis. And through these situations, we are practicing regulating no matter how big or small the shift in our nervous system is. So right off the bat, we're starting to learn how to regulate all the time, and also how to recognize when the body and the nervous system are starting to kick on way before they've gone way into survival and fight or flight mode, because there is a scale to this where you may not fully be in survival mode, but you may be getting closer and inching closer down the scale. And those are the moments when we want to be able to recognize them in real time and then be able to bring ourselves back down and regulate. That is how you start to begin to master that level, that foundational level. And then as you get better at this, you can really start to feel more comfortable and be able to put yourself in situations that can start to expand your capacity with your nervous system and practice at these higher levels. So, the thing that I like to say is the person with the most strong, most grounded nervous system in the room is what everyone else will naturally attune to, right? How I said in the beginning that we all have this natural ability to attune to other people's energy, but the empaths and the people who are more sensitive to it, they naturally do it at a higher level. But anyone who comes into a room, whether their nervous system is very chaotic or someone with a nervous system that is very grounded, whoever's nervous system basically is the most demanding, like the strongest wavelength, is what more people will attune to. So if you have someone, let's say you're getting together at a family gathering, and there's someone in your family that is so stressed, so anxious, no matter what's going on in their life. And anytime they enter a room, it's like everyone can feel them entering into the room, because you feel this like bubble, this cloud of chaos entering into the room. That's what I'm talking about, where people will naturally start to attune to the most demanding energy field, the most demanding nervous system. But then, if you also have someone that's coming in that's very grounded, regardless of what's going on in their surroundings, they're also going to provide a more calming presence for the majority of people. But recognize that the more work that you do on your nervous system, the stronger your energetic field is going to become. So, first of all, again, doing nervous system regulation, making this a daily practice. Now, the other way that you can start to strengthen your energetic field, your aura, is by doing actual energy work. So, this could look like meditations, this could look like doing certain practices where you're setting intentions with your energy. And this is something that I also guide my clients with, is creating different meditations and energy work practices where they can basically set an intention, set a strong boundary at the beginning of their day. And the more that they practice this, the stronger this becomes for them. It's almost like they're patching up holes within their field, their aura, and over time those holes are getting um, stronger and stronger, and they're restoring their aura. But then they also have practices at the end of the day where intentionally we are actually releasing other people's energy. We're calling back in our energy that could be still in sync with someone else. Someone else is still feeding off of our energy, and we're intentionally calling that back. So, these are all techniques that you can start to put into practice, especially if you are an empath, if you are sensitive in nature. I highly recommend putting these into practice as soon as possible so that you can start feeling more like yourself. You don't feel like you have to fully isolate yourself from certain people, certain situations, just because you don't trust your energy and your nervous system to abide by what you want it to do, and instead it has a mind of its own and it starts doing things without your permission. This is how you can start to rein that back in. And what you'll find is over time you'll actually really start to appreciate this gift. Like I said, this is a gift to be able to attune to other people's energy so easily. A lot of healers, however you perceive healer, there's so many different healers out there using this gift in their own unique way and approach. But there's so many healers out there that have mastered this gift and now are able to actually use it for good and still feel grounded and still be able to take care of their mental health, their emotional well being. But it does require intention, it does require effort. And I actually have a free training that if you want to learn more about how to do this, if you're interested in learning more about nervous system regulation, how to really recalibrate your energy and strengthen your energy, then I do have a free training called the Identity Recalibration. And this is ultimately the fundamentals to all of my body of work, where we're diving into all of the aspects of what makes up our energy field, what makes up our identity. I teach you about the subconscious brain, how your nervous system is responding to your subconscious, and how your energy body is responding to all of this as well. And this is ultimately a framework and foundation that I teach every single one of my clients and that I constantly am utilizing in my own life. So if you want to download that free training, I'll be sure to leave a link below so that you can test it out for yourself and start creating boundaries and energetic boundaries in your life. So if this was helpful, be sure to subscribe and like this video, and be sure to check out the next video for more nervous system regulation and energy work.